speech is my recital. I think it's very vital to rock.
Around,
that's right.
on time.
It's tricky. It's right. Here we go.